think we should record. So based on what you just said, Taylor, we're making a little video for you. Sylvie, you had a really good experience of an online conference that was set up based on real life. Do you want to say more about that?
Yes, so it was an online platform that it has virtual spaces that are meant to mimic what you would find in a real life conference center. So like a lounge area and hallways and small rooms where you might have breakout sessions and a large room where you might have a keynote address. And there was an agenda to go along with it. And there was an exhibitor space. So you could just navigate your way around this conference area, basically as though you were there in real life and have conversations with other participants. You could go up to an exhibitor booth and interact with the exhibitors. So I think something like that could potentially work really well for Focusmate.
Mm-hmm. And can you name the organization that hosted it, or like did they have scads of money or medium money? Do you remember?
I don't think it was scads. It was medium. I'll have to go back through my emails and find the name of this.
I totally know you can find it, and how much did you pay to attend?
It was free for me.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if that was the case for all attendees.
Okay, so you were a presenter.
But I know that the exhibitors paid to be there.
Okay, yeah, we might.
So that's one consideration.
They can kind of sponsor the whole thing by.
Yeah, but I wonder if Focusmate could find exhibitors that like various tools that folks who are into Focusmate would be interested in purchasing, software and productivity tools.
Juggling, apparently, based on who showed up early for our meeting. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so let's just not worry about Taylor watching. Let's just talk about like whatever we think is useful. But I get excited about this conference because the Patreon conference I went to was so good. So I went to it in Los Angeles, and the staff of Patreon completely backed the users of Patreon. They were at our service. Like, how can we make your life better as a user of Patreon, and mingled, came to all the sessions. There was no separation. And then there was like a big, and Focusmate has done a town hall, but there was a meeting in which it was like open forum, and Jack Conte basically said, what do you want to say? The first thing was, what about the haters on Patreon? So he got a hard question. And then he had everybody on his staff stand up and said, okay, raise your hand if you're in charge of that. And then they raised their hand. So I was blown away by that conference. And then I went to a different conference. I won't say who it was, but one would have expected it would have been better. And it was very much a separation between the staff and the. Welcome, Luka.
Hello.
So glad you came back. We are in a breakout room on the topic of having a Focusmate conference. Does that topic interest you?
You're in a breakout room on the topic of Focusmate meetings. Yes, sure.
Okay. If you prefer, your other topics are memory lane on Focusmate, life vision, and I think that's it, right? Sylvia, is that
Focusmate is good. Focusmate is good.
Okay, cool. And we're recording it for Taylor, just in case there's something he can usefully glean from our discussion.
Okay, cool.
So can we just turn it over to you? What would you like to see in a Focusmate conference?
Okay.
We're basically a focus group right now, as well as being a.
Yeah. I mean, today I was thinking about computer music focused group. That's one thing. But in terms of like the whole system and kind of improvements, I really like these new favorites and the way that you can control a little bit better who you are joining. And I don't think actually I have much improvements to suggest, apart from, I don't know, how to create groups.
Yeah. So if we had a Focusmate conference, a convening of Focusmate users, Rob has suggested a Focusmate features breakout room where we would kind of cover that topic. But are there and maybe there is a group for artists and musicians that get a chance to meet at this Focusmate conference. Is there we talked a little bit about online versus having some hybrid elements, if there were a lot of people in the same city or similar cities, or people might want to meet in Berlin or someplace. I mean, they can map out where all the Focusmate people are coming from.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I kind of feel like that like for me personally, there's something about common interests that somehow make Focusmate meetings maybe easier in a way. So if I'm co-working with somebody who's doing a similar job that I do, then this can kind of like it can be really faster, or maybe even more interesting to have this first 5 minutes of conversation where you say like, okay, I'm doing this and this, and then that person knows quite well what you're actually working on, and then there's kind of bigger sense. So maybe this is, so it's more, I think, maybe I'm biased here because I come from a small country and I've only co-worked with a person who speaks my language or language of my former country, which was Yugoslavia, maybe 2 or 3 times. And it was actually a little bit weird somehow. I please don't ask me why exactly, because this will then go to a longer discussion. But so I'm not very keen on geographical kind of
Gatherings.
grouping or gatherings, or kind of to have geography as something. I actually really enjoy co-working with people from, I don't know, really from the other side of the world. But maybe the focus about what is your work is interesting. That said, it's also very interesting to explain to somebody who absolutely has no idea what I'm working on, to explain I'm working on this and this, and then they go, that's interesting, and then I can explain some a little bit more, but then we go and work. But yeah.
Sylvie, any thoughts you have just based on what Luka said, and then go ahead. Anything you want to just get in there?
That got me thinking that it may be really fun and valuable to have user-led workshops on topics that tend to be of interest to those who use Focusmate. So like we have a lot of people job searching. So maybe someone running a resume writing workshop would be really helpful. We have a lot of small business owners. So what about a workshop on bookkeeping and finances when you're starting your own small business? So I can think of just a slew of topics that probably we have tons of people that would be enthusiastic to lead a workshop on that, and maybe even want workshop running experience, and then like automatic audiences for them that would want to participate and would gain something from them.
Yeah. I was also saying, Luka, before you arrived, that the Patreon conference in Los Angeles is one of my best experiences of a conference, because the staff really backed the Patreon users, but there was no online element, even though they're in Silicon Valley and whatever. And then they had regional conferences, and that was interesting because I happened to be in New York City. Otherwise, I would have been left out. I wouldn't have driven to Chicago. So I get this consensus from us, maybe like just go with online, given that Focusmate is online, and maybe year 2 is trying to do hybrid, and when the technology is a little bit better. So I like, go ahead.
I mean, so do I understand a little bit the question, that is it just online or is it also in?
We're just throwing around our ideas of what would we show up for? Would we travel for it? Would we just show up online and then show us it's really awesome, and then maybe after that we travel for it because we've seen what a great job they did?
Yeah, I think it's not an easy question. Also in the sense that I think the face-to-face meetings or conferences where people meet in a space they bring something really important and really interesting, and they advance certain connections and so on. But at the same time, of course, we are living in time when online participation brings so much in the sense of like problems with travel and ecology, and we all know what I'm talking about. So so I think it's kind of like really similar weight to both possibilities. So I'm kind of like maybe even for hybrids, like so that near people who are near or in your town, I don't know, Berlin or New York, that I think those could actually be organized in person.
Right.
But whenever there's a big long travel kind of thing, so that I wouldn't from, I don't know, Europe travel to New York, because that would be prohibitive.